Good evening. We're just waiting on some members to join the call, and once we're ready, the chair, David Giordano, will begin the meeting.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm having internet issues. I think threw me out, so I may get cut off. Good thing Carly's in charge here. Hello, everybody. Sandino, what's up? Jeremy, Mr. Taylor, how are you all doing?
Hello. Good, David.
Good to see everybody.
Whenever you're ready, we have quorum.
We have quorum. So again, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on CB11 Youth and Education Committee meeting. Carly will do the initial introduction, and then we'll begin right away. And thank you, everybody, for bearing with us.
Okay. I'm going to keep my video off because I'm having some internet trouble too, it appears. So just the usual spiel. Until further notice, all meetings of Manhattan Community Board 11 will be conducted by video conference. Links to register to attend the video conferences for each of our respective committee meetings will be published on the meeting calendar on our website. To avoid crosstalk and help the meeting run effectively, panelists and attendees are asked to keep their microphones on mute when they're not speaking. It is also helpful to utilize headphones. Those participating by phone can dial *6 to unmute. If you wish to share a question or comment, you may do so by utilizing the raise hands function. I will be monitoring to ensure that all of your hands are recognized in turn. Those who are participating by phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. Committee members will be called on first and then attendees. Please keep your questions or comments brief. And when you're ready, David, I can do the roll call.
Let's go, Carly. We'll continue.
Okay. Brown.
Present.
Chan.
Present.
Donadell.
Present.
Giordano.
Present.
Green.
Here.
Harvey.
Present.
Redia.
Present.
Martin.
Present.
McCullough.
Present.
Scott. Schuler.
Present.
Wu. Okay, we have quorum.
Well, again, welcome everybody to March meeting. Good to see everybody. We have a full house today, especially with our two presentations, but we do have all our information updates and all representatives from DYCD. We have Sandino Sanchez, who's here representing Children's Aid Society to discuss SYEP and the current status. Mr. Taylor from Year Up was going to give us a nice presentation on the program and how we can help support young people getting connected with that particular program or community. We have Calaris, who I've seen a couple of times today already, and we did our principal little skit, Dr. Christie, so we got that done. And we also have Dr. Christie, our superintendent from D4, so we welcome again everybody for joining us. Thank you all members. I usually start with a spiel, but let's get right into the work. So today we're just gonna have Sandino go first, and the information updates will go down the list, and then we'll do the full presentation by Mr. Taylor. So bear with us, get connected with us, and enjoy. Thank you, everybody.
Excuse me, David.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda by John Green, second by?
Angela.
Second by Angela. All in favor? Oh, Carly's got to do a roll call, right, Carly? Yes.
So technically, all we have to do, if anyone objects, they can raise their hand. Otherwise, the motion can be carried for the agenda vote.
So all in favor, say aye. Any objections, please raise your hand. Aye, 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 as we continue. So Sandino is representing again my partner at Children's Aid Society, but he's here to be more informative about what's happening with SYEP and what we can expect. Again, we took motions last year. We wrote resolutions to support the funding for SYP that was deeply cut. We are hoping that those cuts do not go as deep as they were last year. Sandino, thank you, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you all for coming. I think it was almost a year ago that I came on. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was right when COVID that continues to make an impact on our lives. So my name is Sandino Sanchez. I am the Director for Workforce Development for the Children's Society. Within my realm of responsibility has the summer jobs portion of it, and also Work, Learn, and Grow, other workforce initiatives, as well as I wear also an advocacy hat with our policy team, especially when it has to do with things surrounding young people and jobs, as well as after school programs, et cetera. So that's why I play multiple roles within the Children's Aid. So I'm happy here today to announce that this year, unlike what happened last year, this year we should expect a full summer youth experience. The city's goal, we have been informed today, coincidentally, that we are to plan for 70,000 jobs citywide, which is a year. If you remember last time we spoke, we were talking about 30,000 jobs or 35,000 jobs. So we got twice as many slots as last year, and we're at the same level as we were 2 years ago. Within the summer youth realm, there's 4 categories. There are specific NYCHA developments that have their own what they call SYP map or NYCHA maps. I don't know if King Towers is in your district, but King Towers is one of them. St. Nicholas Towers as well. So King Towers and St. Nicholas Towers are the 2 in Harlem that are in. So they get an assigned slot of opportunities funded by DYCD that are not lottery driven. In addition to that, we have the program that was created for young people that are in foster care, ACS, court involved. Those young people get also a guaranteed job as long as their counselor or social worker will refer them. The third category would be the schools. In Manhattan, we don't have a school in Manhattan, but I believe Luperon High School, which is uptown, is one of the schools that is the school-based SYP. I don't think there's one in Harlem. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think there's a school-based program in Harlem that covers the school-based. And then you have the traditional SYP. So we have, again, younger youth, older youth, Manhattan and the Bronx and Staten Island. Those are the 3 areas that we cover. So we are planning around providing 3,500 jobs to young people. The city agreed this year to have 3 different groups of young people that will have a virtual experience, young people that will have a hybrid experience, which is half and half, and then young people that want to have an in-person experience. So we are currently working out those 3 scenarios. And one more thing was created this year, which is also unique and revolutionary. The DYCD agreed to create credential-based certification this summer. So a portion of the 16 and over will be allowed to take courses like Microsoft, the Microsoft Office, Career Sarah, CUNY courses, and anything else that we could develop between now and June and get paid for it as well. So those are the new developments for this year. So young people will have an opportunity to have an in-person experience and also have a virtual experience. And for those that need a little bit more help, we're going to create this career readiness kind of credential-based program for the summer. The summer will still be 6 weeks. I believe it starts July 5th, which is a Monday, and will end the second Friday in August. I believe it's August 12th or 13th. The youngsters, the 14 and 15-year-olds will get a stipend. I know we're not too happy about that, but the 14 and 15-year-olds will get a stipend of $700. and they will be expected to participate for 12 hours a week. The older teens, 16 and over, up until the age of 21, will be able to earn 25 hours a week at $15 an hour, which is the same rate they had a few years ago. So those are, the application will go live on Monday for the special initiatives, which is the three that I said earlier, the NYCHA maps, the school-based programs, as well as the special initiatives for the young people that are in foster care, ACS, HRA, court involved. That application will be released on Monday, and on the 22nd, the general application will be released to the general public. And the application should run for 6 weeks. We expect 150,000 applications citywide. The children's aid, we usually collect around 10,000 of that. And then we, again, moving forward. So we are hiring, we need instructors, teachers, computer science majors, anything, any professional that's willing to teach young people anything regarding vocational skills or any work readiness is something that we are going to do this summer, given the fact that now we could pay young people to get some sort of a certificate of completion or a credential. There's one major thing I think that I don't know if you guys know yet. The concept of universal SYP is being thrown around. They may at one point need support from the community board. And also the notion that for young people not selected by the lottery, they should have a paid experience to get credentialized. So those two concepts are, I don't know if anyone has reached you guys. This is the conversation that happened last week. So this is brand new because Thursday is a hearing, a DYCD hearing, and at some point or another, those two kind of requests for support will come before the community board. Any questions?
Questions, members, and then community? Carly, anybody hand raised? Because I don't pay attention.
We don't have anybody from the committee raising their hand, but we do have a raised hand from Tamika Mapp. So I'm going to allow her. Oh, actually,
Please.
we do. I'm sorry. Someone from Malik is raising his hand. So I'll allow Malik to go first and then Tamika.
Very good. Thank you. Malik, please. Welcome, Malik.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, I know you stated that youth for the age of 14 and 15, that they receiving, I believe you said a $700 stipend. Is that per week?
No, for the whole 6 weeks. It's the same stipend that was provided last year and the year before. So younger youth, I believe the city changed that. All the 14 and 15-year-olds have been getting a stipend for the last 2 years, for the whole summer.
For $700, correct?
$700 for 6 weeks, yes.
Okay, and they have to do 12 hours per week in order to receive that stipend?
Yes.
And the other thing you said was, your phone was kind of breaking up, or maybe it was mine, but you said that we get $15 an hour for 25 hours. Was there anything else that you said between that I couldn't hear, or it was kind of muffly?
No. So for the 16 and over, so you're correct. For the 16 and over, they can work 25 hours a week, and they're going to be compensated at a $15 an hour rate for 6 weeks.
And they don't have to do an educational piece, because they used to have to do like a 5-hour educational or whatever type of piece.
No, the educational component was removed a few years ago. I believe this is the 3rd year that we don't do that anymore. Everybody will be required to attend mandatory orientations. That happens, and it's part of the enrollment process, and it usually happens between May and June. So there's no educational component anymore. What we're trying to do because of COVID and anxieties that our families are still experiencing regarding exposure, being out, and restrictions of social distancing, what we are going to do this year is to develop programs that will give young adults certificates and credential-based learning so that they could put something solid on their resume and put a little money on their pockets, in their pockets. That would be this year's innovation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I think you're on mute, David.
Miss Mapp, I'm sorry, Miss Mapp. Welcome, and you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much, David, and thank you guys. I just have a quick question. How will professionals get in touch with you if they have a skill that they want to lend to the youth that's in the program? Hello?
So I could put my number and I could put my email on the chat room. Is that okay? Or you could get it from David, but it's real easy. SandinoS@children'saidnyc.org. But I'm going to put it in the chat if that's okay with everybody.
Okay. And then my other question is for the professionals. Can it be a must of anything, or are you looking for something specific, like not how to do a website or resume writing or, you know, Microsoft Word experience, or it
All of the above. We have
Okay.
a unique opportunity to explore innovative things. So at this point, we're entertaining anything that makes sense and that young people would love.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Angela.
Okay, so I know this may seem silly. Do they take taxes out of the money for the children that get paid by the hour? Not the children on the stipends, but the older teenagers. Does tax come out of that? Just the Social Security piece?
Only the Social Security contribution. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. I will recognize you. And then we also have one more hand raised in the attendees. Raul Soto.
Hello, Mr. Soto, please.
I think he's on mute.
Hello, Mr. Soto?
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Mr. Soto, you can speak.
What's your
Yeah,
question?
it looks like he's having.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. You could type it in the chat if you're having issues with the mic.
We
So
heard you
I do-
before,
Yeah.
so he might have,
Oh, are you able to hear me now?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry for that. I'm having some trouble with the computer. So yeah, I'm calling. Curious, is this information? This is information that's kind of been pre-released, as in preliminarily the city is planning to fully fund SYEP at 70K jobs for those across the city, or is this kind of like as we're negotiating through the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, we're fairly confident this will be the case?
I'm sure it's on the city's website. I haven't looked at it recently, but the 70 providers received an official email today supporting that 70,000 slot number that I gave. And on Thursday, there's going to be a hearing that at the same time. So yes, this is as official gets. And the application is going to be released on Monday. And one phase will be this Monday, and then the overall community-based SYP will be released the week after that. But yes, it's as official as it gets. I'm sure there's something on the city's website, but I haven't looked at it recently.
And you said the students past participants would receive information at the end of this week or next week?
No. So usually, like, let's say I'll give you my example from me. I will send an email to every student that has worked or applied for SYP and picked Children's Aid Society. I hope that all the other providers do the same thing. In addition to that, the city uses its social media, its website, and other DYCD funded programs to kind of circulate that message. So it's a multifaceted approach. It usually reaches 200,000
Mhm.
individuals citywide, and then of that, maybe on average 150,000 apply.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. You know, again, I just want to reiterate that the SYEP also supports summer camp programs and other programs that operate for youth in our community. They give jobs to many of our kids that have been our youth. It's a way to help identify youth with strengths, train them, and give them marketable skills. And Sandino, I have to say, over the years, he's really cultivated a group of young people who start as SYEP members themselves in jobs and are now working for him and supporting the program at many different levels. And again, it's a path of creating skills that are marketable for kids to get real jobs. So I do commend him in all the facets of the work that we do around SYEP and his advocacy as well to ensure that kids have that opportunity to have that work experience as many of the people in our community do benefit from. I just want to add that in just really quick with DYCD, so it ties in, we have been informed that we have received our elementary school contracts for summer, the original contracts that were from back in 2011, which is great. However, there's a shortfall with middle school where they said there is no funding for middle school for summer camp at this point. And again, this is where it's really important that we begin to take an advocacy role. And a lot of times it does come through, but it comes through at the end of June. Kids may have already made plans. We register kids regardless at Children's Aid, and we will serve them whether we get the funding or not, but it limits their funding or the services that we can provide. So again, I just want to give a shout out to the work Sandino does with Children's Aid and SYEP, but to all the work that he does on behalf of the SYEP. Funding we need to look at is one of the things we should be working on in the next few months because it has a direct effect on the summer. And you know what? Kids need to be out, need to be in program during the summer and have that experience of just being outside again. So again, we did get the funding, although the shortfall for us is we did not get discretionary funding. So a lot of us have base contracts, but our contracts are sometimes double with discretionary, which we lost citywide and also locally through Diana's office. Unfortunately, they're not given the money at this point to continue to fund those programs through discretionary. So for an example, at East Harlem Lexington Academy, we serve 250 elementary and middle school kids during the summer, plus 20%. This year, we only be able to serve 160. So that's a direct of 100 kids that are not getting services that need to be in camp. So, Sandino, any other thoughts or any other questions? If not, we'll move to.
I just wanted to make one point that you made, and I think that for the city to be successful overall with creating a robust experience for summer youth, camps, daycares, parks, museums, all those social avenues have to be open because young people, that's what they do this summer. They help manage and support those programs. So it's almost like an all or nothing. If the camps are not fully funded, if the middle schools are not fully funded, it becomes harder for us to place kids that have an academic goal set, meaning they want to be a teacher, they want to be a professor, they want to be a scientist. This is where we send those young people. So if they don't have that opportunity, they kind of get the short end of the stick. So part of this whole advocacy is not just SYP, it's also to make sure that camps, playgrounds, play streets, parks, and pools are open. That's all part of the same strategy to make sure our young people have and our families have somewhere to go in the summer.
Yes, and I'll just add this little piece. We'll get kids that get selected, they'll respond, but they do not have working papers. And working papers will not get them a job at SYEP, even if they have everything else. It's really important to make sure kids, if we're working with youth, to make sure that they get those working papers. You're supposed to be able to get them in a school, now, but public schools do, not charter. And many of our kids attend charter. Many of our kids also used to attend Catholic, and Catholic schools don't do it. So there's another avenue, and people have to go to the department on Board of Ed on Livingston Street. I forget the exact address, but it is in Brooklyn, where kids can get working papers. And working papers are different for 14 and 15 than they are for 16 and 17. So even if you got it at 14, when you turn 16, you have to get a different set of working papers. And in order to get these city SYEP funded PYCD jobs, kids need working papers. So I'll leave that said with that. We will now move on to Dr. Christie, and then we'll go to Calaris. Dr. Christie, welcome. We do want to get you before the full board, so I just want to say this. Next week is our full board. Carly, you got to work out getting the invitation with Carly in the board office, and we'll connect after with that. So, Dr. Christie, again, welcome to our new superintendent. She's been here for ages already, as COVID has made everything seem a lot longer in these last 9 months now? 9 months, right?
Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun. I'm not even keeping track. That's how much
Okay.
fun I'm having. I see that, Ava, do you still have a question? Sorry, before I start.
Oh, she
Oh,
did.
yeah. My question, it's about the summer program. So for youth that has missed work, that missed school, are there makeup sessions in the summer for them?
So I'll just say this as a provider to kids that once they get a job and they've been selected in June or May, and then they find out at the end of June that they may have to go to summer school, we make accommodations so that that kid does not lose the opportunity to work. They may come in the later hours. They may do some weekend work at some of our sites. So different providers can make adjustments. And what Sandino does, let's say a kid got placed where they can't make that adjustment, we'll shift that kid to another site. So it's just really making sure that that kid stays connected to the program and also to the SYEP coordinators. And again, if it's with me or within Children's Aid, we make those adjustments. And so.
Thank you.
Dr. Christie, so.
Great, perfect. So I just want you to know I'm going to keep this brief and concise. Tomorrow we have our Community Education Council meeting, and I might, you'll be able to hear a little bit more. Just as a little update. So have some good, I want to just frame, first of all, I want to thank everyone who's here. Thanks for this opportunity. For any of you who have experienced loss or with your loved ones, my heart and thoughts and prayers go to each and every single one of you. I know that we're still, people are impacted in so many different ways, and I just want to send my thoughts and prayers to each and every single one of you. On a positive note, right now I'm going to get an update. I'm waiting for the update, but most of our schools have been able to, all devices are en route and or it's maintenance right now. What I mean by maintenance is for the technology, what we're facing is that, normal wear and tear. Some of our screens are cracking, running out of chargers, iPad chargers. It's the ongoing maintenance of devices. With our learning preference surveys as a district, still 63% of our district is remote. That's about, just to give you an idea, about 5,177 students that are remote. Right now, all of our schools are, our high school will open up. Our high school is projected to open up on Monday, and they are ready to do so. They have an SBO, which is a school-based option for one remote learning day, but they will be providing, 4 days of in-person instruction to all of their blended learning students. And some of their students will have 5 days of instruction, some of their smaller groups of students. And so I'm really proud of our school leaders and our schools that in most cases, a lot of our schools have at least one group of students coming 5 days a week, unless they have a school-based option that was approved for one remote learning day. Our attendance, we continue to make progress. We went up from February 9th to today to 88.7%. It's not where we want it, but it is a 0.3 gain. Our blended is at 87.4%. And when I say blended, that's for the in-person students that are doing both in-person and remote. And our remote is at 88.8%. So we went up 0.2. Our blended really went up 0.6. It had the most gains from last month. For special education compliance, which a lot of people here will be interested in, and I'm also very excited by the growth from January to, I just checked it today. Still work to be done, but we have 81.6% of our students are fully receiving all of their services. We have 15.4% partially, and we have 3%, which is basically around 50 students who are receiving services, but not by a certified teacher. So we're working as hard as we can, but we've made significant growth. Back in January, we were at 77% fully received, and now we're up to 81.6%. So we're really happy about that. Some admissions updates, because I know this is what a lot of people want to hear about as well. For 3K, the 3K application in District 4 is a 3K district. The application is open and the deadline to apply is April 30th. If you have any questions about that or need any support, there's basically, you can apply through a My Schools account or setting up your account, or you can also call the Family Welcome Center. But I'll also make sure that I put a link to our Family Leadership Coordinator, Nancy Pereira. For pre-K, the application is open as well. The deadline is April 7th, and it's the same process. We've heard a lot in the news and the media about gifted and talented. Right now for the kindergarten, the admissions is open for kindergarten gifted and talented until April 9th. There's 3 ways that families can apply. Again, they can go online through their My Schools account. They can go through the Family Welcome Center, and there is a phone number in which you can also call, and I'll put that in the chat as well. As of today, I always say as of today because things can change. We will not be administering a GNT test. Instead, families and educators will help identify students for accelerated learning. Do not have all of the details about that just yet, but that's where we are. And if you come to the CEC tomorrow, you'll get to see the PowerPoint with all of the numbers and so forth. I will put some information in the chat. We do have one high school that's under my supervision in District 4, and that's Esperanza Prep Academy. It's located in the same building as Tag of Young Scholars. So that's our one high school that I actually support, but we do have some other District 4 high schools in the district that my colleague Vivian Orlin also supports. And that's just an overview. Like I said, come tomorrow. I'll answer some questions if you have time. I know that I try to be concise, David, because I see that you have other people that have to give updates. But tomorrow you'll get to see the PowerPoint, and there'll be additional information, but that's just an overview. Our school leaders, our parents, our teachers, everyone's really working hard. In fact, as a district, we're really trying to celebrate the work of everyone because we're approaching the year mark of really, I'm sure we can all remember what last March was around this time. And especially for, it's impacted us in different ways. And so we really want to just take time to reflect on how far we have come as a community in such a short period of time, especially for our elementary schools and our middle schools that we're not necessarily ready for the technology, like they didn't all have Google Classrooms or Google Meets, and what we've done in a short period of time is a true testament to just what a community can do together. And I say collectively, because our parents have had to work harder than ever. our teachers and our school leaders. So thanks to everyone. And I see, Ava, do you still have a question, or was that for before?
Before, sorry, I'll.
Tomorrow we're celebrating, tomorrow we're celebrating our principals, right, Dr. Christie? So we're also acknowledging them, not tomorrow, but coming up
Next Tuesday.
Next
Yes,
no-
next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
Yep.
So we're having a special acknowledgement for the principals and all the work that they've done to keep the schools going and keep them open as best as possible. So it's been challenging, and we thank you for coming and attending our meetings. Yes, well, if there are not any questions? I don't have the chat up. Okay, so we'll move to Dr. Calaris Salas, who's our CEC4 president. And please, Calaris, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'll also try to be brief, but our CEC is quite active and always has tons of things going on. So it's great to be able to share with you all of the work that we're doing. And of course, it's in collaboration and support with our superintendent, who's amazing and helps us do this work collectively. So tomorrow, if you come to our CEC meeting, we are going to have an update about funding from the Department of Education. So we'll be talking about contracts for excellence and fair student funding. We'll also have some advocates for dual language programs that are from District 2 that will be coming to just assess if there are families that are interested in dual language programs. We'll have a presentation from Moms Demand Action talking about gun violence and gun control and some bills that we can advocate for, and a short presentation from Union Settlement. We're actually collaborating with Union Settlement. They're going to be our fiscal partner and help us fundraise to help support some of the technology needs that we have in our community. And we'll have an update about the CEC elections. So applications for CECs were open until last week. And now it's about recruiting parents and making sure that parents have the New York City student account set up so that they can vote. Voting will be open from May 1st to May 11th. And there are 9 elected members, each from different schools. There will be a candidate forum, but unfortunately, we still haven't scheduled ours. So we'll let you know as soon as we have that. Some projects that we're working on, we're working with the East Harlem Community Partnerships. Shout out to Miss Angela for helping us and doing this work. We have a forum coming up March 17th with one of our local physicians, Dr. Adam Aponte, but also with some of our citywide physicians, Dr. Ige from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, as well as Dr. Oni Blackstock. And so we'll be talking about how to just support our families and our community in making the decision on whether to take the vaccine or not. It's going to be an innovative event as we're going to include cultural pieces and spoken word and testimony from our community in terms of what their concerns are. So that's a collaboration with the East Harlem Community Partnerships, the CUNY School of Medicine, as well as CEC4. We're also collaborating with the Samuel Group. That is a nonprofit that supports homeless children. They were a strong advocate for getting Wi-Fi into homeless shelters in the South Bronx. And so we're collaborating with them so that they can elevate the concerns of our students in temporary housing, as well as supporting them in getting vaccines into our shelters and temporary housing in East Harlem. And the other thing that we're going to be talking about in our CEC is how to inform our parents in terms of opting out for standardized testing. There's some parents that are concerned about taking these standardized tests during the time of the pandemic. So we just want to make sure that parents are informed of their rights to opt their children out of these standardized tests. There's a lot of advocacy going on in Washington, D.C., particularly Congressman Jamal Bowman, who's actually from East Harlem, but was a principal in the Bronx and is a congressman of the New York Congress District 16. He's advocating and actually drafted a letter that was sent today with other sponsors, letting the Secretary of Education, Dr. Cardona, know that it's time to waive the state test in a blanket form across the country. And so we just want to make sure that we inform our parents. Next month, we will have New York City opt out, as well as Integrate NYC do a short presentation on what those rights are and some of the experiences that students have had with standardized testing. So that's a little bit of an update of some of the work that we're doing. I'll more than happy to take any questions, and hopefully I'll see a lot of you tomorrow, even if it's just your name on a screen.
Any questions? Any questions? Claris, you see anything in there? I should pull up the chat.
Nope, no hands.
Okay, for the sake of time, thank you, Dr. Claris. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll get the full update on all those presentations. Again, any information relevant, we do bring back to the committee so that it can help us support the work that we do. Next up, we have our rep. Do we have CEC? Do we have Miss Gina here? I don't see her.
No, she was unable to come tonight.
Excuse me. Jeremy, how you doing today, Jeremy? Jeremy Lockett from the DA's office. How are you?
How you doing? How you doing? Good evening, everybody. I'm doing well, David. Jeremy Lockett here, the Community Partnership Unit with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The main update I have, mentioned it last week at the Public Safety and Transportation meeting, definitely more pertinent, but still I would like to bring it up. And we spoke about it before at this meeting, but and other measures we can do. But regarding gun violence, there will be another gun buyback this month. It'll be on the 27th of this month. It's going to be at Convent Baptist Church. So that's a little bit out of our area, but it's West Harlem, Washington Heights. That's at 420 West 145th Street. I'm going to put that in the chat. I am trying to spread the word. It's really helpful. I know that maybe there are members on this call or people you know that attend that church, and we can spread that. But obviously, that's not an end-all be-all. We are beginning other discussions. Currently, we're talking to the YCOs about a possible parent pilot program, how to work with parents for those that maybe have a child or a young one that has or they find in possession of a gun. So again, this is a constant conversation. So 327 isn't going to solve the problem this month for the gun buyback, but I would like to spread the word. So thank you for that. I'm going to put that information here. And again, we're trying to open up our office more. Our office on Adam Clayton Boulevard in the State Building, that's open by appointment on Tuesdays. Our witness aid service unit, whether any type of victim of a crime or witness of a crime, can make an appointment, meet with the caseworker, work with us. I could put that. I'm going to put that as well in the chat. There are many things going on right now. Obviously, it's brightening up and people are going to be about. So just want to stay ahead of anything that can be going on, and look forward to speaking to you all more. But I'm going to put the information in the chat, and feel free to just shoot me some questions.
Questions for Mr. Lockett? With no questions being seen, just to keep it moving. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you always. How did the groups go with the youth by chance? Remember there was some, what was it, dating or?
So we did, we're actually continuing to do, so we finished off with about roughly 30 presentations within Manhattan. We're going to do another one that's not specific to teen dating. It's where the audience is more adults, and that's going to be for the 23rd Community Council, actually, hopefully in a couple of weeks. Obviously, I know that council is open to anyone joining that conversation, but we'll have an ADA from our domestic violence unit, as well as our witness aid service unit, presenting on services offered to those that may be a victim or survivor of domestic violence. And further down the line, if we want to have a presentation on this call, be a 20 minutes to 40-minute presentation, I think we could figure it out. But again, I believe it could be more for teens, and we can talk about that.
Okay, great. I mean, again, I have a middle school group and a small teen group, so maybe we'd be willing to have you come out and do something. So
I think that'd be great.
Off,
yeah,
offline.
Definitely.
So as I see, there are no questions in the chat, no hands raised. Mr. Taylor, thank you for being patient with us. Now we'll have a full presentation through Year Up. I believe you have a PowerPoint that you want to include. Mr. Taylor, the floor is yours. Another longstanding community cornerstone agency that supports youth in not only getting them jobs, but really training them A very disciplined program, but one that's very rewarding for kids that complete the program. Mr. Taylor, please.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to talk about my agency. And I have to correct you, bro. It's Youth Action,
Yes.
formerly known as Youth Action Programs and Homes. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to share our work, and I hope all of you are doing well. And I'm pleased to hear all of the activity that's going on with the committee. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and launch into the PowerPoint. Carly, can you tell me how much time I have? Okay. Well, let me know if I'm running over. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I lost Zoom, but you have 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, we'll do questions and afterwards. So.
Yeah, so I'm gonna breeze through this and then save most of the time for any kind of questions or engagements around that. But as I said, I'm Robert Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Youth Action Youth Build. I've been with the agency for 6 years. Our agency is in its 44th year, and we are primarily a youth and community development agency that's based in East Harlem, and we've started here back in 1978. Our founder was a woman by the name of Dorothy Stoneman, who went on to take the model that she developed here in East Harlem and get it replicated across the country and in 26 other nations. And so Youth Build is the program model that we represent, and it's considered the best practice by the federal government in terms of working particularly with opportunity youth. Our goal is to really support young people between the ages of 17 and 24 who haven't completed their high school education to do that and then to get on a pathway towards building a sustainable career for themselves. And that includes training them in the areas of construction, building operations training, food jobs in the New York City food economy. And we have a new pathway that will be opening up in the summer on network technicians, which we're doing in partnership with Silicon Harlem. But our general mission is here on the screen. It's to build a community of young people and adults committed to taking responsibilities for their own lives and for improving the larger community. So our whole emphasis is really supporting young people finding their power, finding their voice, and being able to contribute as leaders or key resources in their community with the support of caring adults. In addition to our youth development programs, we also have a portfolio of low-income housing in East Harlem that is sort of the legacy of the young people who have gone through our Youth Build construction program. So we have about 124 units, and that is primarily servicing formerly homeless families and individuals and people living with HIV with permanent rental housing. Okay, so this is just more of our philosophy and our values. With our young people, the thing that we really try to inculcate in them is the idea of being persistent, resilient, and continuously improving themselves, because we know that the future is yet to be written, but it requires you to be flexible and up on your game. And as I said, we also support empowerment for young people. We believe that you don't empower people, but people empower themselves, and you create the resources and the opportunities for them to find their skills. And we have a strong emphasis around community engagement and civic leadership. So as I said earlier, we started in 1978. This is one of the first buildings up here on 2nd Avenue and 119th Street that Youth Action first did a gut rehab and turned into low-income housing. And as I said, we have 12 such buildings that are part of that legacy. And our program components, particularly when it relates to our Youth Build program, there are 5 key elements, or a number of key elements, excuse me. So one is the educational component. So a young person will come in who's looking to complete their high school education. We partner with the New York City Department of Education, their Pathway to Graduation program, to help them do just that, to get their HSEs, or at least to obtain improvements in their reading and their literacy, which we seek to at least do 2 grade levels. A young person needs to come into our program with an 8th grade reading and writing level. And that's set at the, to sort of deal with the reality that the new GED or the task, really requires 11th grade proficiency to pass. And so we don't want to further discourage young people from success if they're coming in reading below the skill set that they need to be able to be prepared within the 9 months that they're with us. But in addition to the HSE, we provide vocational training and certifications, and I'll talk about that a little later. And they have an opportunity to receive community service scholarships from Americorps. We do a lot of work around work readiness, preparation. We provide case management and support services, and we also do a lot of work around supporting young people's leadership development. And this is just sort of the overall sort of focus of our program. We're a 9-month program. We also provide a year of follow-up to our students once they graduate, so that, if they haven't fully completed all their outcomes with us, we still provide pathways for them to do so to a year. And also just to make sure that they're stabilizing and that they're finding their footing in the world. But once a youth build student, they're always a youth build student. So even after that year of follow-up, they come back to our organization to get further and ongoing support. In terms of how we're operating now, because of COVID, we had started the first part of the year, working remotely. Now, since August, we've been doing a hybrid model. So staff are here in the office 5 days a week, and our students spend half the day at home doing remote learning with the New York City Department of Education. And then they come into our agency in the afternoon for their vocational skills training, their life skills training, or workshops, or to do community service. And we'll probably continue that model up and throughout the summer until we get further guidance from, the authorities here in New York City. And for a young person to be successful in our program, these are sort of the benchmarks that we look for them to sort of be called a completer. They have to complete at least 6 months of service, of working with us, and obtain at least one of the following outcomes, whether it's their tasks, their certifications. We want them to come out with a completed resume that details sort of the work experience that they garnered while they were in our program, and completing at least 75 hours of community service. That's sort of the low bar. Our real goal is to really have at least 80% of our students complete fully, and that means getting their HSEs, getting their certifications, having at least 6 to 8 weeks of paid work experience, updating their resumes, having interviews, performing 450 hours of community service to get their education award, exiting with a development plan that's tailored towards their future. And also just kind of, again, really looking to maintain that ongoing relationship. To be eligible for our program, you need to be a New York City resident between the ages of 17 and 24. You need to be legally able to work in the United States. We ask that you don't have your high school diploma, so come ready to get that. There is some wiggle room around that. About 15 to 20% of our students, we have the ability to bring them into the program so they can get the vocational skills training and then get pathed into post-secondary education. But because of the way that our funding works, we're primarily targeting out-of-school youth. And like I said, they need to have that 8th grade reading level. They will need to undergo a criminal background check, and we are particularly looking to screen out folks with a sexual offense or who have committed a murder. But if you have a felony, that doesn't bar you from our program. And we need some proof of income, either from that person, from the student, or from their family, because we are particularly catering to low-income students. And I think for us, that registers at around about 60% of the AMI for the area. And that, they have some English proficiency, because we don't do bilingual training in our program. And so, part of the real feature is the work readiness stuff, and there's a whole suite of skill sets that we provide for them with that. Everything from how to, prepare for a career, to interviewing to dressing for success and so on, and their ongoing coaching. And we work out, competencies that they should achieve before they're ready to leave. All of the young people will get their OSHAs. So we work to give our young people the OSHA 40. That's the new revised standard. That includes the site safety training, the 40-hour. They have the ability to get a construction skills certification called HBI PAC, which is a nationally recognized credential that focuses on green building. And for our first, I was just going to give you a quick survey of our electives. So our elective periods, and that's what we call our vocational pathways, electives. In the construction, it begins in the spring. Our main partner with the construction training is Operation Equivalency, and they do site rehabs at Taino Towers as well as within some of our housing. They are doing construction skills training for about 12 weeks. It's about 200 hours of hard classroom-based and hands-on training, plus 6 to 8 weeks of paid internships. And following that path, they can emerge with those certifications that are listed, the NCCR, which is another construction certification that's recognized across the country, and their HBI PACT and the OSHA 40. And then we have another pathway called building operators. And this pathway is really looking at preparing young people to manage the efficient operations of a building, which is in sync with sort of what the city is now requiring for all building owners, to minimize their impact on the environment, to have effective heating systems and water systems that are not wasteful. So we are training them in that pathway. And that includes really understanding boiler operations, the water system, the roofing system, the heating, the building envelopes, and pathing them into beginning jobs as, building workers such as supers, or becoming property managers or assistant property managers. They can become building inspectors. So there's lots of doving off of the different pathways once they get the foundation. And the third one is our Good Foods Jobs program, and that's really preparing young people for a range of different jobs within New York City's food economy, which up until COVID was the 4th largest employer of the city. And so we're looking at how that's bouncing back. But again, that track also takes place in the spring. We have a new initiative that's linked to that called the Harlem Refectorio, which is partnering with the Emmanuel AME Church and an Italian nonprofit called Food for Soul to develop a food hub in Harlem that will be focusing on food waste and also job preparation for food careers. And that project is now launched. And so we'll be moving our Good Foods Jobs program into that site once it's ready for opening and occupation. And the certifications that they get in that pathway is a CUNY certification with our partner, the Urban Food Policy Institute. They get a New York State food handler's license and the National Retail Foundation customer service, as well as paid internships. And all of these include placements into jobs after they leave. And then, we have our internship program that all young people are eligible for. It equates to about 8 weeks of paid internships, about 160 hours in one of the pathways that they're working on. And that's their opportunity to get hands-on work experience, to develop some credits for their resume, and to find a connection to potential employers. And that program is funded through the city through the HRA WPP program. And, we have a case management component. So all of our students, when they come to us, we're really working with them to kind of identify sort of their needs and barriers. And that gets formed into a development plan that they meet with our case manager at least bi-weekly just to track their progress. And then we also connect them up to support services as needed. And then the leadership development is sort of the benchmark of the work that we do. We really believe that the young people are the best resource for the community, and it's an untapped resource. But if they're given the chance to develop themselves and to have the support of caring adults, they can really transform communities in a very powerful way. So we place a lot of emphasis of them connecting with local elected officials. we have a policy commitment committee where the students have regular scheduled time with me as the ED to discuss their program needs, to assist with our hirings, to act as a liaison between the larger student body and the app staff. We take them every year to Albany to meet their local officials and to share their experiences in the program. There's a program that the National Youth Build Network offers called COIL, and that's where the young people are from all over the country are converging to really look at their leadership work in that setting and to connect with national officials. We have alumni networks that keep the young people engaged post-program. And then our Americorps component, again, our students are known as quarter-time service Americorps students. So they get, they don't have to do full-time Americorps service, but if they contribute up to 450 hours, they will be able to get an educational award of about $1,600 that they can use towards education, vocational training, or just getting their lives on track once they leave the program. And they have that award available to them for up to 7 years. And this is just a picture of some of the projects that they do as a point of service. So working with the food bank, we've done some work on supporting the rehabbing of low-income housing. They built an art installation in the South Bronx. You know, we help with community issues around, you know, gun violence and youth on youth violence. We distribute meals to folks in the community. So all of that work allows them to earn their hours, plus they get hours for their educational activities. Let's see. And I think that's sort of the big overview. The other thing is that we have a new project that we are starting, which I just mentioned was the refertorial, and partnering with with Silicon Harlem to prepare young people for career pathways as network technicians. And these will be folks who will be instrumental in building the 5G infrastructure across New York City, particularly trying to deploy them into Harlem and East Harlem. Part of our goal with our workforce development is to make sure that the pathways that we offer have some relevance for the community in which they're living, and that it provides an opportunity to work in your community and make a good living and raise a family if you apply yourself and commit to further and ongoing development. So, you know, construction is still very big in Northern Manhattan. Food is still and will be, again, a major, you know, employment opportunity. And then building out the digital network is going to be big business in the city in the coming years. So that's the spiel very quickly. And I'll take any questions or comments or.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very well informative, Mr. Taylor. Questions, members?
We have two hand raised. We have Rev Brown first, and then we have Angela Donadell.
Good evening, Mr. Taylor. Thank you so much for your presentation. This is quite comprehensive. And just looking at the various programs you've laid out, it seems as though you've covered all bases. What is your expected enrollment?
So we recruit on average every year up to 42 students for these opportunities. And we're small because we're also a high touch organization. And, you know, we want to work with the young people who are most in need of an opportunity. And those are the young people that sometimes require very intensive support. So we don't have the capacity to go beyond the 42 at the moment. We're trying to grow up our capacity, but that's our peak right now. You know, I think we have a goal over the next 2 years to triple our numbers with some of the new pathway wings and to also increase the service population. So for example, with our digital, with our network technicians, we'll be looking at recruiting not only out of school youth, but young people who may have completed high school but haven't made a decision to go to college, and they're looking for some kind of liminal opportunity to get a sense of where they want to go. And then also young veterans who are returning to the community and they're looking for a way to transition back into civilian life. And as we start to look for more opportunities for bringing pathways, we're looking to really expand the network of who we can support.
Okay, great. Well, there's nothing like staying within capacity, because when we do so, we typically have a better outcome. So thank you so much for that. Now, my other question really has to deal with the, where exactly are you located?
We're on 118th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, 206, I'm sorry, 118th Street.
Okay. One of the things that this committee has been searching to do was to bring and engage our youth in civic activities and in advocacy. Would it be, is there an intersection where maybe we could collaborate with your organizations, whereby there may be some students who may be recommended, especially since those who have 200 community service hours in which to complete? Could it be possible that they can find a place within the community board to service those hours?
I mean, I think there's, I think that is quite a possibility. I mean, we are actually in the middle of recruitment, and COVID has sort of done a number on us in terms of like trying to meet our numbers. And so we're looking for lots of different ways that we can engage the community youth to our program and to give them meaningful opportunities. In terms of the internships and being able to serve, you know, we used to actually have young people placed at the councilwoman's office, working with Diana, and before Diana, working with Melissa. And those were great experiences. And so, yeah, we would love that as a possibility. The one challenge that we have with the internship placements right now is that our allocations have been cut by WPP because of budgets and all that kind of stuff. And so the primary thrust is to make sure that first the young people who are going through the vocational skills training are able to be matched to a work experience that complements their training so that they can have the hands-on piece and the connection to employers. But occasionally, you know, we get young people who come to our program, they're not necessarily fully interested in any of the vocational tracks that we offer, but they're coming to get, you know, complete their HSE, and then they deal with the tracks because it's part of, you know, it's an all or nothing kind of proposition with us. But for those students, we occasionally place them outside of the pathways. So definitely we could figure out something.
Okay, great. So we'll need to follow up. Last question, because I want to get others opportunity. What are your source of fundings?
Right now, we're relying on about 85% public funding. So our biggest funder right now is the United States Department of Labor. They have a specific allocation for youth build programs, which is competitive. So we're one of 82 youth build programs across the country that are funded by the Department of Labor. We get a small allocation from the City Council through their council discretionary funds through DYCD. We get the in-kind funding from the Department of Ed, who provides all of the HSE training for our students without cost to us. And then we fundraise and we write grant proposals. We just got some money from the state to inaugurate our digital technicians program. But, you know, every year it's a hunt to, you know, stay viable. We've been able to keep our doors open for 44 years, but it doesn't mean that it's easier.
Exactly, exactly. Well, keep hope alive.
Thank you.
So, Angela Donadell.
Nice to meet you, Ms.
You've been open, you said 44 years, but the dynamics in life have changed tremendously. Your fundamental model has to do with construction, and I see that you're pushing forward to get into more technological areas. So I wanted to know, what percentage of the 42 every year actually complete the program?
We, you know, it ranges from year to year, but I think we are solidly at about a 72% completion rate for our students.
For the lower level echelon or your honors level echelon? Because you had two different dynamics there.
Yeah, well, when you say lower versus honor, I mean.
Well, that's how you put one for the 6 months, one
It's
program.
sort of a minimum setting for the students who, you know, I think the thing that you need to keep in mind about our students. They come to us with a lot of volatility in their lives. And so being able to stabilize for 9 months to complete all of the outcomes is a major accomplishment for a lot of them. And so if they get a certification, if they get their HSC, and they do the minimum, they're considered a completer. And then for those who get the full Monty, I would say probably it's about maybe a third of that 72%.
Okay, so you do job placement. I just want to ask, and I have this question for various programs that only do a model of 16 to 24. Why isn't that, can't that model be extended to 30? Realistically, you're still relatively a young person till you're 30. You may not know what directions you want to move in. And there are still people in need that need these types of programs. We have all these models for the teenagers, and I love my teenagers, but we need to look at extending. And I also want to know, do you utilize family as part of that dynamic since they start at 16?
So a couple quick things. One, we are starting with 17-year-olds because we.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we find that the dynamic with a 16-year-old and someone in their 20s, and particularly the mid-20s, can be a little screwy. That young person is still on the maturing end versus someone who might be a young parent and have different concerns. So the dynamics are they need to be managed carefully. And so we found that our 17-year-olds can sort of be that cut for us. But to answer your first question about why we stick with that population as opposed to supporting the older population, I agree with you. It's really a funding issue. There's not a lot of available funding to support relocated workers in the way that we support them beyond the age of 24. What I'm hoping as a result of some of the changes that seem to be on the horizon with COVID and with some of the New York State workforce development funds that might be coming down the pipe is that we can think about offering variations of what we have to older segments of the population, maybe tweaked in a different way. It might be evening programming. It may not be as supportively intense, but it is trying to think about people who have been impacted by job dislocation, or they need retraining. And I think we have an opportunity to work with an older set of the population. And that's one of our goals, is really to sort of increase who we can support. But I think traditionally we've stuck with this particular population because of, that's how our funding runs.
Okay. And it just have any of you,
I would welcome the support.
excuse me?
You want to help me get some of those funds for older workers, I would welcome that support.
Well, I was going to suggest, you have 42 years of people that have come through your program. Do you guys reach back and see if they be willing to support the program financially?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I have to say, the alumni giving back financially hasn't been what I would like it to be, but I think it's something that we're always trying to figure out. I have to tell you, fund development has been a challenge for our organization, and really diversifying our pot of where we get our money from has been a challenge. One of the reasons has to do with capacity. We don't have somebody on staff who's designated as a developer, fund development. That's me doing that on top of running programs, managing our housing portfolio, hiring staff, dealing with student issues. So the goal is to really figure out how to make those shifts. But so I think the capacity is the real issue, and we try to play within the capacity that we have with the hopes for growth.
So I have another question.
Okay.
It just crossed my mind. Any of your students go on to college?
Yes. Yeah, I would say maybe a good 25% of them
actually leave the program and then eventually move on to college.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a stated goal for the students. But again, like I said, our students have really volatile lives. And, sometimes it's the choice of finding an immediate job to support children or to keep a roof over their heads. And that, we try to stay in contact with them as long as we can in keeping the pathways to post-secondary opportunities open. One of the good things about our partnership with the Department of Ed is that they provide, a college counselor that helps the young people navigate the CUNY system. And so a good deal of them end up at least going into the junior colleges.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Taylor, thank you. You did a great presentation and withstood all our questions.
There's a question for him in the chat.
Okay, we'll get to it. So I just have one question. Out of the 42 that accepted, how many kids applied for the program? And how can we be of help at getting and identifying kids, which we too have been struggling with?
I think it's been all over the place. I mean, in an average year, again, like I think COVID has just kind of shown us, like it's shown holes in lots of different ways. We have to now think very differently about our strategy for outreach and recruitment. But on an average year, we usually get about 150 applications. Out of that 150, there's sort of a sorting process that happens. There's a percentage of those students that will submit an application and won't come back for, the testing. Then there's a percentage of the students that come back for TABE. They may not pass the TABE, so we get them to come back for a second time. And then there's a drop off there. Or we get them, they pass the TABE, they go through what we call orientation, which is a 5-day period where they're auditioning us, we're auditioning them. And then some of those make the cut, some of them don't make the cut. So I think our sweet spot is about 42. We get about 150 applications. And then there, with some of those requirements, with the, being able to legally work in the United States,
So there's a percentage that just get X'd out for whatever reason or whatever. I'll tell you one thing. I've been in Albany on one of those days, and I've seen you up there with the red and white and the beige pants and in full force. So I would always imagine there's much more than 42.
Well, that's across New York State, there are 18 youth build programs. And there are 9 in the city. So when we do Albany, we try to turn out as many of us as possible.
Yeah, no, you were strong that day. We were a small group, but y'all were a big group. So, there's a question in the chat. I'm sorry if I didn't see it. What, Carly, did you see the question in the chat? Well, I do have to say,
I'm sorry.
Youth Action, Youth Build is a presence in the community. I'm sorry, Carly, and we do see them in their uniforms, I guess, or in their outfits, and really commend you for the work that you've done and the presentation today. Carly, you had something to say, or Rep. Brown?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that all questions should be, if anyone has questions, they have to raise their hand and state them out loud for the record. So questions submitted in the chat will not be recognized unless they raise their hand and ask them.
Okay, Carly, that's the official. Well, again, this is a public record, so they want people to identify who's asking questions for the public record. And we do have to take minutes on top of having a recording, so.
Well, I'll put my contact information in the chat box if anybody wants to get in touch and follow up. Be more than happy to talk.
Thank you for a very informative presentation. Again, we are looking for opportunities to create for young people and trying to get young people to those opportunities. And we know, even as a board, as we work to get some young people in some programming, it's not easy. And I commend that you do a diligent process and screening. Again, in terms of Angela servicing older youth around education or young adults, this is the Youth and Education Committee, but it is not restricted to youth. So if there's work that we need to do as a body around advocacy to getting funds to service the older population, yes, adolescence continues to get extended. Right now, they're saying you're in late 20s and 30s. Well, I don't know. A few years ago, you grew up, you went out on your own. And so, again, there are many kids that are struggling on their own without resources. Here's a great resource in East Harlem and Harlem community. Again, let's try to support their work and vice versa, support the work on. So, Mr. Taylor, we thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, and have a good rest of the meeting. I'm gonna tuck out. Take care.
Have a great day. Thank you so much. So we have two more items on the agenda. One is old business, and we have a new business item to discuss that hopefully Jason got my email back to, if he could just raise the issue of new business, we do have as an agenda item. But I want to take us back to our old business and where we've been working working on projects, an event. I don't like to say an event because that seems like a one-time thing, but more ongoing work that the board will commit to during the next year in the work that we do as a body together. So last month, we received some projects from some of the members of this committee. We are going after the meeting tomorrow, going to send out what people had submitted in each of the forums. And we're going to ask next month, and we're going to ask you to do a presentation, 10 to 15-minute presentation on projects or advocacy work that we should be focusing on as a committee. What we intend to do is, Rev Brown, myself, and Carly, is to meet with each of the individuals that presented project ideas and work with them around how we present it and offer it to the community. There are some things we can do. There may be some things we can't do. We are also exploring those things. But we do want to, I really want to thank the people that put in the work, Jason, Jada, Angela, Eva, sorry if I'm missing anybody else, that really took the time to really jot down not just ideas, but real thoughts and questions about making sure that we address certain things in the process. So we want everybody to share those questions, have those questions, and then have next month a real full discussion as it relates to these, and not have a presentation, so that we really begin to shape the work. But do understand this, we are going to have to come together in order to accomplish these things as a committee at other times than when we meet on the second Tuesday of the month. Any thoughts, Rev Brown, any other thoughts I missed? Anything you want to add? Carly as well?
No, I just want to say thank you for the submissions. It was quite detailed, and the thought that went into those that had opportunity to do so. So I look forward to the presentations, because oftentimes in the presentations where those marginal questions, those questions as are noted in the margin, are answered. So I hope that we do send them out to each of the committee members so that we can prepare to ask whatever questions need to be asked, so we can find ways in which to incorporate them in the work that we do. So I just want to applaud those who were able to submit, and I hope that we just come together and make a decision on what it is that we can and cannot do. As you said, as a committee, and given as the governing body for which we operate under, there are some things that we can and cannot do, but there's always ways of innovating in order to get it done. So I thank you so much for the innovation and the thought that went into it.
Carly, anything else you think we missed or add? We kind of really want to solidify these days and times within tomorrow, so that we can get moving. Carly, I'm sorry.
The only thing that I'll add is that we will be reaching out we'll be reaching out to those who submitted ideas with dates. Or we just want to set up a time next week or the week after to, I guess, go over them, as David mentioned. So just look out for that email tomorrow, and I will also forward everybody what they have submitted. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Rev Brown. And again, I'll just add that it was really detailed work. I got more than what I expected to see. You know, I expected a few bullets, a few ideas just jotted down, but these ideas were thought out also with questions that we should make sure that we address as we go through these different kinds of goals and projects to work on. So with that said, remember, please review the information that we send so that we can proceed. Again, we will set up times to meet with those that submitted their proposals, and we will present that at the next committee meeting. And we will limit, again, what any presentations, unless there's something that really has to come before us. So with that, we can move to new business. I will turn it over to Jason if you're here, Jason. Yes, you're here. Very good. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing good.
Jason, go ahead, please.
Sure. So yeah, the committee discussion regarding a new deal for CUNY. And so for folks who maybe haven't heard, obviously there's the state budget negotiations that are happening right now. And there's a number of legislators who have expressed support for increased funding for CUNY. And basically there are proposed cuts, budget cuts. I think it's estimated $42 million cuts from CUNY by the governor. And so obviously many people within our district and also across the city rely on the CUNY system. We have the Hunter Social Work School in our district, but obviously there's City College, there's Hunter College in our neighboring districts that provide much needed educational opportunities for people within our community. And so right now there's a push to advocate that they don't cut the funding to CUNY, that they actually increase funding. There's a need to hire more mental health counselors, academic advisors. There's obviously issues around campus infrastructure. There's proposed cuts to adjunct professors. And so that would affect coursework. It affects people within, people's jobs. There are 500 full-time faculty and staff positions that have been left unfilled this year. And so obviously that also impacts the students. And so that said, in terms of this broader campaign, New Deal for CUNY, in terms of our district, my understanding is State Senator Brian Benjamin, as well as Jose Serrano, have expressed support along with many other legislators. There's other people within our district who I don't think have signed on to the campaign yet. And so long story short, I had reached out to David about the campaign, and we had talked in the past about doing more letters of support or resolutions. And so perhaps this is a campaign where we can issue a letter in support of funding for CUNY. And it's a letter that would go out to the elected officials within our district and our state, statewide representatives. So, so that's something that is being put on the table. I think it's something we could do. It doesn't take a lot for us to do it. And I think it's an important thing to advocate for our community.
Thank you, Jason. Earlier, after we received this, Carly did reach out to Benjamin's office to possibly see if we can get somebody from his office out. And so we'll look to have them at the next meeting. I'm wondering if this may be something we work more on in doing a resolution as opposed to just a letter of support, right? Because I think there are many facets of this, particularly, for me, what struck is, again, the mental health supports that are going to be needed in the community. I think right now also we have some concern with, what's happening with the, it escapes me right at the moment, but with the cultural center up on, which we raised, that Andrew raised in relation, El Centro up at, at SUNY right now, at CUNY right now, and what is there. So, thoughts, other thoughts on the committee?
Can I just jump in really quick? Part of the issue though is the state budget, I think, gets passed by April 1st. And so there isn't a whole lot of time to push this into next month. Although I think these are ongoing conversations and ongoing needs. And so I'm just gonna put this in the chat, but just to clarify the demands, one is to co-sponsor or to support the New Deal for CUNY legislation, which would enact free tuition starting fiscal year 2023. It establishes minimum staff to student ratios for mental health counselors, academic advisor, faculty, and compensation for adjunct. And then the second demand would be, as part of the New Deal for CUNY campaign, is to address some of the proposed budget cuts and to increase funding for CUNY. So I put that in the chat in case people want to review the two kind of prongs of the campaign more carefully.
Thoughts, members? Is this something we want to support at this time?
And then just also what would be the timeline if we are to support?
My hand is raised.
Sorry, Yolanda, please, Rev Brown.
It's quite all right, though. What I wanted to just add is I had the opportunity to go through and go to the site and read and what was being asked. And in as much as we are in a time crunch now, since April 1st is the target date, each individual in the interim can decide whether or not they want to support this. So it's not something that we have to wait for the committee to do so. I signed on earlier today. So keep that in mind as we determine whether or not we have enough time as a committee to do this or not. That each individual, again, can, if they are in line with what's being asked, they can support it as well.
I think generally as a community board, we've tried to get something and process it for a month, but I think because of the budget, maybe we want to take a position at this moment. I agree, Rob Brown, we can all take individual positions, but I wouldn't want this to escape. And, you know, for right now, for CUNY, tuition should be free from, you know, I mean, we're at a desperate point in this, and a pivotal point in societal times in this country. And I think whatever we can support, I mean, who's really applying for the free tuition but the people that need not to go into loans, right? So are there any members that would like to support this? Would there be a motion put on the table that we would take a vote?
So before Jada does have her hand raised, and I just want to say, I want to respond to Jason's question about, I guess, process and the timeline. So our full board meets. So if you were to take an action tonight and vote to provide a letter of support, it would then move to full board, which is on the 23rd, and we would be able to pass something and then send it out by the 24th. And
No, isn't it next week?
The full board meeting is Tuesday, the 23rd.
Or we could work on something, a letter of support, Jason, and gather some information and present it at new business at the full board. Is there any reason why members do not want to take a position at this time?
So Jada has her hand raised. I think she's had it raised before.
I'm sorry, Jada. I'm terrible with this hand raising.
No worries. Yeah, I want to ask a little bit more about process. Knowing that full board is next week, if we voted to pass, to write and pass a letter of support, would we have time to review it before full board, or would that be just something we do like over Google Docs? And the second part of my process question, I guess it's just a second question, is what would procedurally, not in terms of our action as a committee today, but in terms of like actions as a committee throughout the week, I suppose, until the full board, what would be the difference between passing a motion to write a letter of support versus in favor of the CUNY New Deal versus passing a motion in favor of writing a resolution in support of passing the CUNY New Deal?
So I will take this question. To your second question, so a resolution, so letters are easier to pass. And I would recommend passing a letter for things that need action.
Right.
Yeah. So in the past, I mean, it's always best practice to have a letter on hand prior to voting on it. But in the past, if the letter is in support of it, the letter is quite simple then. However, resolutions are a little bit more complex, and resolutions need to be fully written and sent to the committee and submitted to the public 72 hours before the meeting. So if the committee did prefer to have a resolution over a letter, what I would then recommend is not vote tonight, work on it, and submit it to the executive committee. But it's always preferable to have an action come out of. But that's kind of like a last resort sort of thing, and that's a tool that's available to you as well. I hope that answered. I forget your first question, and Jada, I'm not sure if I answered that.
I have no lingering questions right now.
Okay, and then Jason has his hand raised.
Yeah, so I just wanted to offer up in terms of, I know sometimes there's concerns about what the language actually would be in the letter of resolution. But first, like I would trust David and Yolanda, our chair and vice chair, to approve an appropriately drafted letter. I think there's a general framework of what we're supporting. And then in terms of the actual demands, which I think is what would be at the heart of the letter, I put the language in the chat for people who want to have a better sense of what we would include in a potential letter, which just lays out, you know, like I just read off earlier, the New Deal for CUNY, the legislation sponsored by State Senator Andrew Grenardis, Assemblymember Karina Reyes around free tuition, and then the second prong of it, which was around the state budget and restoring CUNY funding. And so that's kind of the template language that I think would go into the draft letter. And there would just be an introduction conclusion as to who we are, what we're asking for, and why we're asking for it. And so I personally don't think it's a super complicated letter of support. And I'm happy to work with David or Yolanda in drafting that, although I have full faith that they can do it without my input.
I would just add this, that we have often, as Carly communicated, there are times we sit in here and we communicate for a letter to be passed in committee, and we write the letter afterwards. At times, Angel and Carly have written letters with standard support letters. Any information that, Jason, you can provide that we will submit and put into that letter, we'll definitely get in there with more specific information, so it makes it a more strong substance. But I think we really do need to take a position on this and take a vote on it, because let's move it along. I think, again, you know, while we're spending time and making sure we're putting in the right time to work on our goals and mission of this committee, like I said, there's always the things that are going to come up that are going to have to be addressed. And if, you know, if we had till May 1st, then I would say let's wait a little longer and write a resolution. I say let's write a letter of support at this moment, take a motion on that. And then if that doesn't get us the money we need, then we work on a resolution, or it's something that we can work on continuously as a goal of this group in seeking additional funding to support our education. And see, this ties in to a lot of what you were talking about, Angela, support for some of our adults, not just young adults, but those more middle, extended adolescent adults. So is there a motion? And Jason, you can make the motion. Yes, John.
I apologize. I don't have a raise hand function on my screen, so I break in like this. I apologize.
That's okay. I got no problem.
But the thing is, we do have 2 weeks between this and full board, and the thing is, I think the letter would be effective, and we should make a decision on having a motion for a letter of support tonight. This is very important.
Thank you, John. So
I'd like to make a motion that we submit a draft letter of support for,
and second by Jada. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
So we have a motion by Yolanda to write a letter of support. We will present that draft at full board and executive, so we have time to write it, so that the letter that we actually want to send will be approved. Are all those in favor? Carly, you have to do the roll call. I'm sorry. I'm over.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, Carly.
Oh, Brown,
yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
Giordano,
Yes, sorry.
Green,
Aye.
Harvey,
Yes.
Heredia,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McCullough. Okay. Scott, oh, he's not here. Schuler
Yes.
and Wu.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So just, I will draft something with Rev, Brown, and David and send it out by Friday.
Sounds great. And we will include the times when we can also meet with the people that submitted the projects. Let us know what times work best for you. If those times do not work, reach out to us so we can figure out another time so that we can move forward with all the stuff that we're working with. Any other thoughts, anybody? Any other new business? I guess without that said, motion to adjourn.
Wait, I'm sorry, Xavier has his hand raised.
Xavier, I apologize. So sorry.
Quite all right, everyone. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. Just with the letter of support, definitely get that off to the executive committee as soon as possible so we can review it. We appreciate the efforts made by this committee. We just want to make sure we're getting everything crossed and dotted. We look forward to seeing it just so we could, because it looks like full board will probably be fairly full. Human Services passed a resolution. I do want to remind everyone that resolution was a long time coming, but a work in progress since January, and we finally got it hammered out as one of a multi-stage process. So when it comes to letters of support, they're easier to push out so long as that, they're not overly detailed. If it's just a very summary, yes, we support this motion or we support this agenda and what they're trying to do, it makes it easier. But when it comes to resolutions, definitely the recommendation both from the BP's office and from our collective experience over the years, and David could and everyone else could opine, is that you check all the boxes and it makes it a cleaner and process, and will stand in perpetuity. So thank you very much, Youth and Education Committee.
So, any other thoughts before we motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Rev Brown, second by?
Second.
I second.
Second by Patricia Martin. And have a great day, everybody. Jason, I'll reach out to you just to have a quick discussion as well. And thank you again, everybody.
David.
Yes, Angela.
I don't have your number. I'm sending you an email.